We do not understand how her political party was changed.
They don't want to do any change. I don't sign anything, but they change me the party.
A switch scandal.
Hi, looking for Alexis Rodriguez.
Alex is in here.
A shill scheme.
We are alleging that November's Florida Senate District 37 election involved crimes. These payments were intended to influence the outcome of the election.
Efforts to confuse you.
We're going to do another package of election integrity reforms.
Now, new laws.
We are adamant about overcoming those obstacles. It's our responsibility to make it convenient for the voters.
New steps heading into a midterm election.
All election cycles are important. Our voters continue to be more engaged with each year.
Cutting down the confusion.
You may be seeing new races, new candidates on your ballot.
For the next half hour, we are going to give you everything you need to make it count. Good evening. Your vote and the results of next month's primaries and midterm elections will chart the direction of our community and state. Whatever your politics, we are here to help you protect your vote. In the next weeks leading up to the August 23rd primary election day, candidates and political party machines plan a full court press to get your vote. It is already underway. Campaign advertising on the air and on the streets, flyers mailed to your homes, and candidates' events around South Florida. But as we've uncovered, that may also mean less obvious and even less ethical methods to manipulate your vote. So tonight, we will provide the information and the tools you can use to prepare and protect your own ballot and your choices. Since the 2020 election, we uncovered several schemes meant to manipulate South Florida voters. The more you know about them, the more you can protect yourself from them.
Hi, looking for Alexis Rodriguez.
Alex is in here. Hold on a minute. I'll call you right back.
That's one shill candidate.
You're not Celso?
That's another. Both lied at first when we found them after the 2020 elections.
Who paid for your flyers?
I don't have any flyers.
Our reporting on Local 10 prompted a criminal investigation into a dark money trail, both political and corporate, that finances fake candidates, fools trusting voters with the intention of swaying state elections. And it seemed to work in the race for State Senate District 37. Alex Rodriguez, running as a no-party affiliate candidate, garnered more than 6,000 votes. No coincidence here, he shares that last name of the Democratic incumbent at the time, Jose Javier Rodriguez. The race would come down to just 34 votes, with the winner, current state senator, Republican Ileana Garcia. Just a day after our story aired, an investigation was opened by the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, and that ended in 2 arrests. Former state senator Frank Artiles is currently accused as mastermind and financier this time.
Can't comment. It's an open case.
And while he awaits trial, that NPA candidate Alex Rodriguez accepted a plea deal. But planting shill candidates in South Florida elections happens more than you know. So how would you know? Candidates' records are public. Look up who is donating and how they're spending. All available on the Florida Division of Elections website in its campaign finance database. Google the candidates' backgrounds. Call their campaign offices. If you can't find a campaign, chances are it doesn't exist. Don't vote for someone you know nothing about. Speaking of voting, we discovered countless South Florida voters who suddenly discovered their party affiliations had been changed without their permissions.
And then change me to the Republican Party.
Came to my door and they asked if I was interested in voting.
The pattern emerged. Volunteer third-party canvassers targeting Democrats, in this case, offering to help update voter registrations, addresses, etc., and then secretly checking the boxes that change the parties to Republican.
And how did you find out that you were changed?
When they sent me the new registration.
After our discovery, the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office announced another investigation. If these voters hadn't realized the change in time to reverse it, they would have been shut out of their party's primary voting next month. For instance, picking their candidate for governor, senators, or reps in November. Because Florida has closed party primaries, only members may participate.
Somebody was over there and changed for
República.
A quick fix is a quick check. Make sure your county elections office has your voter information all correct and in time to make changes if it's not. Some of the entities involved in the party affiliation switches are contractors outside Florida. A scheme like that, though, can be stopped right in its tracks, and we'll give you those tools, the deadlines, and empower you to protect your vote. They are already printing your ballots and testing the voting machines.
We all care deeply about election integrity, so we want to make it difficult for people to cheat.
All election cycles are important. There is something for everybody on this election.
Coming up, South Florida's supervisors of elections are ready to help you guard your personal voter information. And then,
The way Florida did it, I think inspires confidence. I think that's how elections should be run.
a smooth 2020 election followed by new election security laws, how they'll impact your ballot. Plus,
first and foremost, its job is to ensure that Florida's election laws are followed.
Florida's new Secretary of State, Cord Bird, on the newly created Office of Election Crimes and Security. That and much more as we help you make it count.
We want our elections in.
Elections may be weeks away, but South Florida elections departments have been immersed in the planning for months, especially with so many changes in store. Because of recent redistricting, all registered voters will receive, or may have already, replacement voter ID cards reflecting any updates or none. Elections departments in Miami-Dade and Broward and Monroe counties are taking care of that. The rest is up to you, empowered with information. At Miami-Dade elections, they are already printing ballots, testing machines.
So you have this device, which is the one that almost everybody uses.
At Broward's HQ, training is underway for poll workers. Your county elections departments take care of logistics.
It's our responsibility to make it convenient for the voter. It's our, responsibility to make it welcoming.
You take care of your own vote.
We have sent out voter information cards to all of our 1.6 million registered voters.
This year, because of potential redistricting changes, all voters will automatically receive new voter ID cards.
Look out for that new voter information card that's coming in the mail.
That makes it easy to make sure the information on it is all correct. That means name, address, your party affiliation, which is critical to vote in party primaries, choosing party candidates for governors, senators, or reps in November. The August ballot has plenty of nonpartisan races, too, for those NPAs, no party affiliation voters.
There are judges, there are some universal primaries, some municipalities have races, county commission, school board.
You can make any necessary corrections to your voter ID yourself online.
Scroll to the important election information box. Click on the Find Your Voter Information link.
You can also make the changes by mail. Either way, you have until next week, until July 25th, to make the deadline for the August primary.
Making sure that we provide everybody with the greatest number of options that we can.
New Florida election law, built to make voting more secure, makes it even more important to know the rules and plan how you will vote. If by mail, make sure you're signed up to receive that mail-in ballot and get it in before Election Day.
But you have to remember that it needs to be you that signs that ballot on the outside of the envelope and returns it in advance.
You can bring that mail-in ballot to any county drop box during early voting at any early voting site in the county convenient for you. When that ends, it's Election Day, and the only option that day is to vote in person at your own precinct. Either way, you can vote well prepared by looking up your customized sample ballot on the county website.
Your specific ballot will be pulled up so that you can right then and there see what's going to be on your ballot, and you can start to do the very important research that I think is necessary before actually going into the polls to vote.
After the break, the planting of shill candidates, the changing of voters' party affiliations without their knowledge. The governor told us that these also would be the kind of things that this department would be investigating. Is that the case under you? Enforcing election laws, former state representative and newly appointed Secretary of State Cord Bird sits down with us.
We have election laws on the books. We expect them to be followed. We want voters to be secure when they go to vote.
About the newly created Office of Election Crimes and Security when Make It Count returns. This three-term state rep, Cord Bird, goes from making laws to carrying them out as Florida's new Secretary of State. And among the major changes, Florida's newly created Office of Election Crimes and Security. That new department has powers that go broad and deep to investigate allegations of election tampering. We talked about that with Secretary Bird as he takes on his first election season. The election administration that you're now the head of, Florida's 2020 elections by all account were the gold standard. So going into the midterms now, what is your biggest concern?
Sure, you're correct. Florida had a great election in 2020. I just returned from the Conference of Secretaries of State in Louisiana, and everyone was asking, how did Florida do it? Because obviously there were other issues in other states. So there's not so much concerns, but just making sure that we continue on the success that we had in 2020, that we have a fair, transparent, and legitimate election, and that one in which Florida voters can have confidence in, and we're going to do just that.
And there will be several new laws, not only from this last session, but the session before, that will be employed, some for the first time in the August elections. And one of them, one of the biggest new things to come out of Tallahassee was this Office of Election Crimes and Security. This new department was specifically created to look into voter fraud, although there was not much voter fraud identified. More what was identified recently by us and what we've been talking about in this program is voter manipulation and voter tricks. And is that something that this new department will be looking into as well?
So first off, Director Antonacci brings a wide breadth of experience in state government. As you mentioned, he was supervisor of elections in Broward County, so he has an intimate familiarity with the elections process and how voters interact with the election system. So the office will have, first and foremost, its job is to ensure that Florida's election laws are followed. Nothing undermines confidence in government more than when our laws are not enforced. So that's the primary goal, is to let people know, let Floridians know that we have election laws on the books. We expect them to be followed. We want voters to be secure when they go to vote. We want our elections infrastructure to be secure, which is part of what this office does. We have great relationships with our local and federal partners to ensure that the election systems and integrity of that infrastructure is secure. And we want to, where appropriate, when we have legitimate, credible allegations of voter fraud or intimidation, that they will be properly investigated and, where appropriate, prosecuted. So a couple of things that we know is that there are instances of double voters. We get information from other states about people voting in Florida and in another state. We know that people that were deceased voted in the last election. So this office will investigate all of those allegations to help us, one, clean up our voter rolls. It's critical that only people who are authorized to vote, and that's part of what the Office of Election Crimes will be doing as well, as the other things that I mentioned.
Thank you, yes. And the particular crimes that you mentioned, double voters or deceased voters, those are the kind of crimes that prior to this new department were investigated and possibly still are investigated by county state attorneys' offices, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. How does this new crime and security department fit in with those other investigatory and prosecutory departments? I mean, is there going to be overlap? Is this going to be a partnership? Who does what now?
Sure. So you're absolutely correct. Some of this was already taking place, but elections, our major elections occur every 2 or 4 years. It's a complex mix of federal and state law. And so what we thought was important, and the governor thought was important, that we have one unit tasked within the Department of State that specializes in this area, knows the laws, investigates them appropriately, and then partner with our state attorneys and or the statewide prosecutor, if it's multi-jurisdictional, to make sure that these crimes are prosecuted. I've been involved in election law and administration at some level for the last 25 years. And there are irregularities or fraud in every election, and sometimes they don't get prosecuted, and that undermines the integrity of the voting system, which is what is critical in this new office, coordinating those efforts to make sure that Florida's laws are enforced.
Yeah. Prior to our conversation in this program, we're talking about some of the things that Local 10 has uncovered over the past couple of years, the planting of shill candidates. In and of itself, under Florida law, not illegal except for some of the financing irregularities, for which we had a couple of arrests by Miami-Dade State Attorney, and also more recently the changing of voters' party affiliations without their knowledge by third-party voter registration organization volunteers. The governor told us that these also would be the kind of things that this department would be investigating. Is that the case under you?
You're absolutely right, and those will be the types of things that we're investigating. When someone robs a bank, we don't ask what their party affiliation is. That's not what we're doing in this office. If you break Florida's laws, you are going to be investigated, and if the evidence supports it, you will be referred to the appropriate authority for prosecution. Just a few weeks ago in Duval County, 2 people were arrested for petition gathering fraud. Those petitions are used to try to get constitutional amendments on our ballots. I mean, we take that very seriously. So you're exactly right that those are the types of issues that this office will investigate.
There is also the ability for the office to do independent inquiries that aren't necessarily a report or an allegation. What kind of those kind of independent inquiries do you project you will have?
Sure. So you mentioned earlier that the office is currently doing that. So under our general counsel's office, we have been investigating these types of allegations. And so we're passing those on to the new office. But for example, I mentioned that we get referrals from other states. So those are things that we independently can look into in efforts to clean up our voter rolls. Most of our referrals come from supervisors themselves. So they don't have an investigatory arm. So they're the ones on the front lines that are identifying irregularities, things that they're seeing, and they are referring those to the office. So anyone, a private citizen, supervisor of elections, another state, or the office itself can initiate the investigations.
So, Secretary, in the short time we have left, I want to bring up a lot of what elections involves, of course, is politics. We live in, at the moment, a quite divided state and a lot of contentious issues. And some of the components of this new election bill, the last 2 election bills, that are really meant to make Florida's elections safe and secure and fair and equitable, there have been a lot of people with great concerns that there might be barriers to their voting and taking away the ease with which they vote. How do you address those concerns?
Sure. I mean, in Florida, we have 3 ways in which voters can participate and cast a ballot. They can use a mail-in vote, which was heavily used in 2020, and we expect to be heavily used again in 2022. They can show up early, and counties do it differently, but they have 8 to 14 days in which to vote. And then there's election day. So I am confident, just as in 2020, that every single Floridian that is legally able to cast a ballot will have that opportunity. And I know I and my staff in this department and the governor and every element of state government, supervisors of elections, are going to make sure that every Floridian that wants to cast a ballot will have that opportunity and have that opportunity to do so in a safe and legitimate and transparent manner.
And we here at Local 10 are going to be doing our best to do that as well here in South Florida. Secretary Byrd, it is great to have you aboard. Best of luck in your first election, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak to the voters directly. I appreciate that.
And we will be right back. Remember, the deadline to register for the August 23rd primary is Monday, July 25th. You can vote early at any of the designated locations throughout your counties. In Miami-Dade, early voting is available from August 8th right through August 21st. In Broward, it'll be from August 13th to 21st. And in Monroe, locations are open from August 8th to the 20th. The list of early voting locations, new precincts, and information on how you can track your mail-in ballot, it's all on your Supervisors of Elections websites in your county. As always, for a one-stop motherlode of information, we have all the links we've talked about over this half hour right there on our website, local10.com. Just look under the Vote 2022 section. And we thank you for spending time with us tonight, gearing up for the August 23rd primary, and as always, for turning to Local 10.